I wasn't ready to introduce her to my family, not yet. I wanted to be sure first. But when I finally did, the reaction from my family left me wondering if I made the right choice by bringing her home. Hi, I'm Gerald, and this story is about how I tried to protect something precious, only to have the very act of protection expose a deeper wound. The common belief is that being cautious and waiting for the right time can prevent pain. But I learned that some truths, when withheld, become more destructive than any immediate revelation. I'm Gerald, a proof that the things you hide, even with good intentions, can still shatter trust and expose the fractures within your closest relationships. Here's my story, and I hope you learn from it so you don't make the same mistakes and understand that sometimes, the only way to build honestly is to be brave enough to reveal everything from the start. Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Let's all be internet friends. I didn't want another mistake with witnesses. I'd brought people home too early before. Let them sit at my mother's table, pass the salad bowl, make small talk with my dad like they belonged. It always looked fine, felt fine. Right up until it wasn't. The first one left a shadow. The second burned the whole room down. My parents still won't say her name. My brother made a joke about her once and I didn't speak to him for a month. So this time I kept it quiet. Not because I was ashamed, because I didn't want to hand something good to people who'd already learned how to wreck it. She asked about them a few times, softly, in passing, never with a push. I'd changed the subject. By time, she let me. The truth was I liked our world small, just her and me, dinner on the couch, Sunday mornings in bed, long walks that didn't go anywhere. There was no performance, no audience, just space. Real and quiet and ours. I didn't want to risk it, not with introductions, not with expectations, not with family dynamics that never knew how to stay out of the way, because this time felt different. And I wanted to be sure before I let anyone else touch it. We met when everything in me was burned out. Job gone, apartment lease ending. Friends too busy trying to stay afloat to notice I was sinking. I'd been interviewing for positions I didn't want, smiling through calls I couldn't afford to miss, wondering if I was ever going to feel proud of anything again. She walked into it all like she didn't mind the mess. Didn't try to fix it, didn't give advice, just made room for me to breathe. We crossed paths at a mutual friends thing, something I barely showed up for, something she almost skipped. We were the last two to leave. She didn't flirt. I didn't either, but she asked if I wanted to get a drink somewhere quieter, and I said yes before I thought about it too long. That night was the first time I laughed in weeks. We didn't talk about careers, or losses, or exes. She asked questions that weren't trying to lead anywhere, and when I didn't have answers, she let the silence stay soft. The first time she came over, she brought takeout and her charger. No expectations, no makeup, no notes. We sat on the floor and shared fries like we'd known each other for years. She never made me feel like I had to perform, never made me feel like I had to recover in front of her. I could just be exactly what I was, unfinished, unsure, completely off track, and she didn't blink. That's what got me, not the timing, not the spark, the steadiness. She was calm in a way I didn't know I needed. Real in a way I forgot people could be. And for the first time in a long time, I wanted to protect something instead of fix it. She asked if she could meet them while we were lying in bed, legs tangled, the TV still playing something neither of us was watching. Her voice didn't shift, no tension, just a quiet question in the middle of a slow night. I didn't answer right away, reached for the remote, lowered the volume like that was the thing getting in the way. She didn't repeat it. She never repeated questions, just watched me from her side of the bed, waiting. I said soon. She smiled, not wide, just enough to make me feel like I hadn't ruined something. She didn't ask again the next night, or the night after. But I felt it sitting between us, not pressure, curiosity. She wasn't trying to push her way in, she just wanted to be let in. Slowly. The way you knock before entering someone's childhood bedroom, knowing there might still be pieces on the floor. We'd be out walking, passing couples or families or just people living lives they weren't afraid to show off, and I'd feel her glance over like she wanted to ask again. She never did. She trusted me. That made it worse. She'd reach for my hand when we crossed streets, tie her shoes in the doorway while I waited, pick up 2 coffees instead of one and remember how I took mine. She did everything that said I'm here, and I still hadn't given her the people who raised me. The ones who'd want to know her name, the ones who'd ask questions she didn't deserve to answer. It wasn't about shame, it wasn't about doubt, it was about history, because I knew what came with letting someone into that house, that dining room. That orbit, I wasn't scared of how they'd see her. I was scared of how the past might show up while she was standing right there, holding my hand. It came out casually, like I hadn't rehearsed it in my head for weeks. "So this Sunday then?" She blinked, looked up from her coffee. "Yeah." I nodded like it was no big deal, like it was just another day, but she knew. She felt it, the shift, the decision behind the words. She didn't smile too wide. Didn't act surprised, just reached across the table and touched my wrist. "Okay." That was it, no follow-ups, no "are you sure," just grace. I texted my mom the same afternoon, told her I'd be bringing someone to dinner. She replied in all caps, finally. 15 minutes later, my brother called. "Is she hot?" he asked. Same tone he always used when trying to sound cooler than he felt. I told him he'd see for himself. He made a low whistle. "Can't wait, gonna be weird seeing you soft again." I laughed, said something about not ruining it. He said, "I'll behave," which was usually a lie. By Saturday, my mom had already sent me 3 different menu options. My dad asked if she liked wine or beer. My brother texted twice about dress code like we were hosting royalty. It felt good. It felt dangerous. She asked what to wear. I told her whatever made her feel like herself. She looked at me across the couch that night, hair tied up, bare-faced, wrapped in one of my hoodies, and said, "That's the version they'll get." And I knew right then I'd made the right call, or at least I thought I had. The house smelled like garlic and fresh bread. My mom always overdid it when she was excited. I walked in first, carrying a bottle of wine we picked out together. Something full-bodied, she said, felt diplomatic. My dad was in the kitchen, pretending not to hover. My mom came around the corner with that wide, thrilled expression she saved for holidays and job promotions. I introduced her like it mattered, first and last name, full eye contact. She stepped forward with that soft confidence she wore better than anything in her closet, smiled, and shook their hands like she'd been raised for this. My mom beamed. My dad gave her a nod and said, "Finally brought someone serious around, huh?" Then came my brother. He came down the stairs 2 at a time, grinning like an idiot, a beer already in hand. "Well, damn, it's real." I laughed, she laughed, even my mom rolled her eyes. "You're glowing, man," he said. "I thought you were making her up." He stepped forward to shake her hand, and that's when it happened. She looked up. He looked down, and the air changed. He froze, not a stumble, not a double take. Froze, the grin dropped halfway. His mouth stayed open like he'd started to say something and forgot what language was. She didn't speak. Her hand hovered in the space between them like a question she couldn't take back. Then her fingers curled into a fist and dropped to her side. No one else seemed to notice. My mom had already turned back toward the kitchen. My dad asked if we wanted a drink, but I saw it. The stillness, the glitch. The way my brother's eyes stayed locked on her face like he was seeing a ghost he hadn't buried right. And the way she wouldn't look at him. She took one step into the living room, and the sound of her purse hitting the floor pulled everyone's attention with it. It wasn't loud, just sudden, sharp enough to stop the small talk. Her face had gone completely blank, colorless, like everything in her had drained out in one long blink. My mom turned from the sink. My dad looked up mid-pour. My brother still hadn't moved. I bent down to grab the purse. She didn't notice. Her eyes were still locked on him. He hadn't said a word, no smile, no movement. Just standing there, shoulders square, expression caught between panic and denial. She took half a breath, tried to speak, didn't. I said her name gently, like maybe the room had gotten too hot, like maybe she needed a minute outside. She blinked, finally looked at me. I whispered, "You okay?" She nodded too fast, then looked back at him, then back at me. I just need a second." She picked up her purse with both hands like it might anchor her, then turned and headed for the bathroom without another word. I didn't follow right away. I looked at my brother. His mouth opened, closed. He scratched the back of his neck, stared at the floor, shook his head once like he was trying to reboot. I stepped closer. "You good?" He nodded, didn't look up. "Know her from somewhere." That made him flinch. He coughed out a weak laugh. She just looked familiar for a sec. I stared at him. He wouldn't meet my eyes. She still hadn't come out of the bathroom. And that's when I knew this wasn't going to be a normal dinner. She didn't come out for 5 minutes, long enough to turn heads. My mom asked if everything was okay. I said she wasn't feeling well, maybe something she ate earlier. My dad nodded and poured another drink. My brother disappeared into the kitchen without a word. I walked down the hallway slow, quiet, listening for anything, water running, crying, movement, but there was nothing. I tapped the door once. "You all right?" Nothing, then the latch clicked and the door opened 2 inches. Her face was pale, lips pressed tight, eyes red like she hadn't cried yet but was close. "I need to tell you something." I stepped inside, closed the door behind me. She sat on the edge of the tub, back straight, hands folded in her lap. She looked up. I know your brother. My stomach dropped halfway through the floor. Like, we hooked up once. A while ago. She was trying to control her voice, but I could hear it unraveling at the edges. Her hands were shaking. It was before I met you. Months before, it didn't mean anything. It was one night. I didn't know. She stopped. Didn't finish the sentence. I sat on the closed toilet lid across from her. How long ago? She shook her head. I don't know the date. I didn't even know his last name. We met through a friend of a friend. I didn't know he was your brother until I saw him just now. You're sure it was only once? She blinked, yes. I watched her, and for the first time since I met her, I couldn't read her. She'd always been so clear, so grounded. Now everything felt fogged. Off. I didn't lie, she said. I just didn't know what I was walking into. She reached out for my hand. I didn't move. Down the hall I heard laughter, silverware. I stayed still. She whispered, please say something. I looked her in the eye. I need to hear it from him. He was leaning against the counter when I came back into the kitchen, drink in hand but untouched. I didn't ask him anything right away. Just stood across from him and waited. He knew, didn't try to play dumb. He looked at me once, then down at the floor, took a breath. I didn't know she was yours. His voice was flat, no apology. Just the kind of sentence you say when you're already building your exit. I stared at him. How long ago? A while. That's not an answer. He set the drink down. Couple months before she met you, at least I think. You think? He shrugged. We didn't date, we didn't talk after. It was one night. I watched his hands. No shake, no guilt, just calm. You remember her name. He hesitated, that was enough. I stepped in closer. You knew who she was when she walked in. He didn't answer. So either you forgot my face for 2 months or you remembered hers tonight. He looked up, she said it was just once. That true? He nodded, then paused. Far as I know. That pause hit harder than the words. He didn't lie. He just left the window cracked, just enough air for doubt to crawl through. I stepped back. You didn't think that was worth telling me. I didn't know it mattered. She's in the other room, terrified. And you're out here acting like you bumped into someone from middle school. He crossed his arms. You want to fight or you want the truth? I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure which I wanted more. She was sitting on the edge of the tub again, fingers clenched around a wad of toilet paper she hadn't used. I stepped in, closed the door, and she looked up like she hadn't let herself breathe until I came back. He said it was months ago, I told her. She nodded once. It was. He didn't remember your name. Her lips parted but nothing came out. I leaned against the sink. My jaw ached from how hard I was clenching it. He paused when I asked how many times. Her hands dropped to her lap. I swear it was just once. He said the same thing, then left a crack in the window. She started crying then, not loud, not dramatic. Just tears moving quietly down her face like something slipping loose. She wiped them fast, like she thought time mattered. I didn't lie to you. No, I said, but you didn't warn me either. I didn't know. You knew he existed. You knew I had a brother. You heard me talk about my family. Her voice cracked. You never said his name. And you never asked. She looked away. I didn't want it to ruin this. I sat on the floor, back against the cabinet. I brought you here to be proud of you. She pressed the tissue to her mouth. And now I'm sitting on this floor, I said, wondering if I introduced my family to the woman I love, or if I introduced them to the last girl my brother slept with. Her face broke open. All the control she'd been holding finally gave out. I didn't know, she whispered, and I never would have come if I had. That was the part that hurt the most, because I believed her, and it still didn't fix a thing. He was sitting alone at the table, drink in hand, same spot as before. Everyone else was in the living room now, half watching a show no one cared about, laughing at nothing. He looked up when I walked in, didn't speak. I sat across from him, no buffer this time. You said it was just once. It was. When? He hesitated. Before her birthday, he said. Late spring, maybe May. I did the math, we met in June. Maybe. He shrugged, we were drunk. It wasn't planned. You remember where? He nodded, a party downtown. I was staying with Dev that weekend. That checked out, it lined up, and it didn't, because I remembered how she acted that first month, careful, guarded. I thought it was because she didn't want to move too fast. Now I wondered if she was making sure I wasn't someone she'd already left behind. He took a sip, didn't look up. You believe her? He asked. I didn't answer. She seems solid, he added. Better than the last ones. I looked at him. You don't get to say that. He held up one hand. Just saying, I get it. No, I said, you don't. He leaned back, look man. It wasn't personal. You slept with her. He tapped the glass against the table soft. I didn't know she was yours. But when you saw her, you didn't come to me. You didn't pull me aside. You waited until she cracked. He said nothing. You sat at the table, toasted, ate the food, made jokes, like you didn't recognize the woman sitting next to me. She didn't say anything either. She was scared. So was I. I stood up. She had a reason to be scared. You just had a reason to lie. I went back to the bathroom. She'd washed her face. The redness around her eyes was still there, but the tears had stopped. She looked up when I stepped in, like she couldn't decide whether to brace herself or hope. May, I said, her eyes flickered. Yeah. You remember the day. She shook her head, not exactly. Before or after your birthday? I think before. You think? She blinked. It was a blur. I wasn't seeing anyone. I didn't know who he was. But you remember sleeping with him? Yes. Where? She swallowed. Downtown, a party. I didn't even stay the night. I leaned against the wall. Why'd you stop seeing him? I wasn't seeing him. It was one night. Did you talk after? No. Did you follow each other? Text again, anything? No. Every answer was clean, too clean, scrubbed down to sound like nothing. Did you recognize my last name when we met? She hesitated. I saw it, but it didn't click. Not even a little. She didn't answer that one. I stepped closer. You said you wanted this to be real. I do. But you didn't think this mattered. I didn't think it would happen like this. You didn't think. That's the problem. She pressed her hands together like a prayer. I swear if I could go back. But you can't. The silence was thick, heavy, the kind that makes you want to scream just to feel something break. I looked at her for a long time. She opened her mouth, closed it again. I said, tell me what I'm not hearing. She looked me in the eye. I didn't come here to hurt you. But you still did. We sat on opposite ends of that narrow bathroom like strangers in a waiting room, and the silence between us didn't feel neutral. It felt charged. Measured like a fuse running short, I stared at the tile. She stared at me. Why are you both still lying? I asked. She flinched. I'm not. He is, or you are, or both. You're just hoping I won't dig deep enough to know which. Her voice dropped. I told you what happened. No, I said. You told me what you rehearsed. She blinked fast. I didn't. You expect me to believe it was one night, no names, no memory, and then nothing. And neither of you put it together. Not when you saw my face, not when you heard my name, not when you walked into my house. I didn't connect it, she whispered. You knew I had a brother, but you never said his name. And you never asked. I stood up too fast. She stayed seated, arms folded like she needed something to hold onto. I walked to the door, didn't open it. He's not telling me everything. And if you're still protecting him, then this isn't about what happened. It's about what didn't stop. She stood now too, slower, eyes wide. It stopped, she said, but it overlapped. No. Yes. I stepped closer. You met me in June. He says it was May. That's weeks. Weeks. And you didn't feel the need to say anything when I talked about family, when I mentioned my little brother, when I described the guy who lived downtown and worked construction all last year. She shook her head, breathing faster now. I didn't know, she said again, but it sounded smaller now, less certain. I stepped back. You didn't lie with your mouth, I said. You lied with your silence. I left the bathroom before she could answer. The hallway felt narrower than usual, the air thick with something I couldn't name. I moved past the living room, past the kitchen, and found him exactly where I knew he'd be, leaning on the back deck railing, smoking like he wanted the world to disappear. He didn't turn around. I'm not done, I said. He exhaled, slow. Didn't think you were. You said it didn't mean anything. It didn't. But you're still standing out here like it did. He turned now, eyes heavy, jaw set. You think I'm proud of it. I think you're hiding something. His mouth twitched, that almost smirk he always used to cover the moments he didn't want to answer. I stepped closer. She said it was one night. It was. You sure? Yes. No repeats, no calls, no DMs, nothing. He didn't answer, that was enough. You said she looked familiar. She did. You remembered her name after she walked in. No, but you remembered something. He looked away. And then he said it. She said you were sweet. I froze. What? He took another drag, exhaled through his nose. That night, After, she was putting her stuff together, said I was nothing like this guy she used to talk to. Some sweet guy who'd always listen, never push. Said she felt bad even thinking about him. I stared at him. You're lying. I'm not. My chest burned. He shrugged. I didn't know she meant you. Not then. I took a step back, like the space might protect me from what that sentence meant. He looked up at me now, finally. Guess she figured it out later. Did you tell her anything about me? No, but she knew. He didn't speak. And just like that, the mask shattered, because it was never about the timing anymore. It was about the knowing. The yelling must have drawn them in. I didn't remember raising my voice, but maybe it didn't matter. Maybe it was the silence that followed, the kind that always makes people come looking. My mom stepped into the hallway first, drying her hands with a dish towel, her eyes narrowing as she looked between us. My dad came in a second later. Then she stood just behind them, half-shadowed in the frame of the living room, makeup gone, face stripped bare. No one said anything at first. My mom looked at me, then my brother, then her. What's going on? She asked, her voice light but already tightening. I didn't answer. Neither did he. My dad crossed his arms. She stepped forward. Her mouth opened, then closed again. She didn't even try to speak. The weight in the room kept building. No chairs creaked. No drinks clinked. Even the TV in the other room seemed to lower itself. My brother looked at the floor. I looked at her. And then I spoke. I brought her here because I thought she was mine. The words dropped sharp. No emotion, just fact. And he slept with her, a few months before I met her, maybe less. My mom blinked. What? My dad's mouth tightened, but he didn't speak. I turned to her now fully. She walked in this house and didn't say a thing. He recognized her the second she stepped through the door and said nothing. She dropped her purse, excused herself, and made me feel like I'd done something wrong. My voice didn't rise. It didn't have to. She's the woman I was going to tell you I loved. She looked like she might collapse. And he's the brother I trusted not to take things from me just because he could. Still no one spoke. They didn't need to. The silence was the answer. I looked at him first. You slept with her, then sat at my table. He didn't argue, didn't defend. He just looked back, jaw tight, hands in his pockets like if he didn't move, maybe the damage wouldn't spread. Then I turned to her. You stood in my living room, took my mom's hand, smiled at my dad, hugged the brother you never mentioned. And you let me think that this, I motioned between us, the air still warm from what we'd shared, was built on honesty. Her lips parted. No sound came out. I would have understood if it was a mistake, if it happened before, if it was just one of those messy, stupid things that people survive. I took a step toward her, but you chose not to tell me. You both did. You looked me in the eye, and you let me fall harder every week. You knew what this family meant to me, and you said nothing. Her eyes filled, still no apology, just guilt, just fear. I turned to my parents. Did any of you know? My mom shook her head. My dad did the same, but it was slow, too slow, and I felt it in my chest, the betrayal curling wider than just the two of them. I've been here before, I said. I've made mistakes before. But this isn't about mistakes. This is about lies that wear my name and still expect me to smile. I looked back at both of them. You could have told me the truth before I opened that door, before I let you into this house. Before I imagined what a future might look like with either of you still in it. Still, they said nothing, because what could they say? Everything I needed to know was already in the silence. I didn't want an apology, not from her, not from him. Apologies only matter when the damage can be undone, and this wasn't that. This wasn't a broken plate or a late-night argument. This was a choice they made, over and over, first in a bedroom, then in the silence that followed, and finally in the moment they both saw me and decided I didn't deserve to know. I looked at her, tell me what I was supposed to feel. Her mouth opened, but I kept going. When you walked into my house and saw him, what was I supposed to do when your face changed, when your hands started shaking? Were you hoping I'd miss that, or just pretend it didn't matter? She took a step forward. I didn't let her close the space. When I talked about this dinner for days, when I told you I hadn't brought someone home in years, when I made you part of my future, were you scared or were you relieved? Because if I hadn't seen it in his face, would you have said anything at all? She tried again. I didn't. You didn't tell me, I snapped. You let me walk into a room where I was the only one who didn't know the truth. I turned to him. You sat across from me, made jokes, watched her hug my mother, ate the food she helped me cook, and not once did you think, hey, maybe I should say something. He didn't even blink. You said I was sweet, I said. That's what she told you. Like it was a flaw, like it was a weakness, like being kind meant being blind. My chest tightened, my hands wouldn't unclench. I wasn't blind. I was loyal. And then I said it, quiet but clear enough for every person in the room to hear. And neither of you deserved that. I didn't storm out, I stood, that was enough. The room held its breath, forks half lifted, eyes wide. My dad opened his mouth like he was about to say something. I didn't let him. I scanned the faces one last time. My mother's confusion, my father's shame, my brother's silence, her tears. I brought her here to be proud of her, I said. The words landed hard, not loud. Not to find out you both were proud of hiding. No one moved. The chair scraped softly behind me as I stepped away from the table. No one followed. No one said wait, that was the answer. I walked out of the dining room like I was carrying something heavier than my own body. Past the kitchen, past the hallway mirror, past all the photos still on the wall from a family I wasn't sure I recognized anymore. I reached the door. Hand on the knob and still nothing. I stepped outside into the night air, jacketless. It didn't matter, because cold only hurts when it's sudden, and nothing about this surprised me anymore. I made it halfway down the driveway before I heard the door creak open behind me. Footsteps, 2 sets, one lighter, one familiar. I didn't turn around. My mom called my name first, soft, hesitant, like she wasn't sure which version of me she'd find if I stopped walking. Then my dad, closer, voice low, "Come back inside, let's talk." I kept going, he tried again, "Son." I stopped at the edge of the curb, hands in my pockets, breath fogging in the cold. "You were all in the same room," I said, "and none of you stopped them." Silence behind me, not denial, not defense, just silence. "Maybe you didn't know everything," I said. "Maybe you didn't see it start. But you saw something, you had to. You heard me talk about her, you heard me talk about him." Still nothing. I didn't expect you to protect me from the world. I just expected you to notice when it was coming from inside the house. I turned around. My mom looked like she wanted to cry. My dad looked like he already had. "I'm not mad that it happened," I said. "I'm mad I had to see it in real time, in my own home, while you passed the salad." My mother opened her mouth. "I love you," she said. I nodded once, then let me go. I got in my car, pulled the door shut behind me, and didn't look back as I drove off. They stood there in the rear view, small and still, but I'd never felt more distant. I packed that night, didn't slam drawers, didn't blast music, just moved through the apartment like I was closing up a place that didn't belong to me anymore. I folded shirts I hadn't worn in months, bagged up the hoodie she always stole, tossed out old receipts, notes, takeout menus with scribbles from nights we thought we had time. Every corner had her in it. Every sound felt like a memory I didn't want. I blocked his number first, then hers, then the group thread with my parents and him, the one filled with years of birthdays, baby pictures, half-finished plans, deleted it without flinching, did the same with the photos. Not all of them, just the ones where I could see what I missed, the version of her that smiled at me while hiding him, the version of him that slapped my back and told me to take my time falling in love. Gone. I moved through it all quiet, methodical. This wasn't rage, it wasn't heartbreak, it was extraction. By morning the apartment was bare, 2 bags, 1 key left on the counter, no goodbye notes, no closure letters. No poetic final words, just space. And peace, the kind you earn after cutting the last string. It took me months to say anything, not because I didn't have words, because I didn't trust what those words would do if I sent them too soon. I needed them to land cold, clean, without emotion to confuse the truth, so I waited. I rebuilt my routines, took the long way to work, changed coffee shops, left voicemails unanswered, unfollowed, muted, unsubscribed. I didn't erase the past, I just stopped letting it speak. Then one morning I opened a new message thread. No greeting, no preamble. I typed, "You two taught me what I deserve by showing me what I don't." I hit send, no name. No context, they'd know, and then I turned my phone off, tossed it in the drawer like something I'd finally outgrown. That was the last message I ever sent them. Not a flame, not a dagger, just a mirror. And mirrors don't argue back. Thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. One love.